the ship this morning in an attempt to paint the picture for you of the juvenile restitution program that has been going on for a couple of years now. And so what I'm going to do is I'll try to paint a picture of the history, the evolution, how we all got involved in a community, and then Anna, who is one of the principal volunteers with that program, is going to tell you a few stories and in terms of the success that we've been able to have with the young people that we work with, and then give you a little sense of the vision for the program. But our focus is that this was a program that originated from the community. It bubbled up from the community and connected to the system. And these types of programs tend to be best owned by the community and embraced by the community when they come from the community. And so that's sort of what we want to discuss today. As the panelists, again, are not here, so we will have a little bit of time to fill. We want to make sure that this is something that is interactive. You all be able to ask questions. I know that there are several practitioners in the room who are doing community-based programming. So, you'll be able to share a bit from your perspective in terms of the success of community-based programming. And we hope that we can just have a good time discussing things and sharing information. Let me further introduce Anna, who is a resident of the Wyland Park community, who in that community is where this program is actually taking place. She's an associate professor at the Ohio State University School of Teaching and Learning. And her core areas of interest include adolescent and adult literacies and children's and young adult literacies. And she earned her PhD in education from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And she was one of the first volunteers for the juvenile restitution program. I'll let Anna further introduce herself, and we will begin this conversation with you all. And again, hopefully you'll bear with the change in the format, but we should have a good time nonetheless. Anna?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
There's not much more to say, really. I can make one minor correction. Robert didn't know, but I recently got promoted to full professor, so I'm no longer and I moved into the Wyland Park neighborhood January 2007. Quite unwillingly, and I knew Summit Street and I knew the area, flying past it, along with all the other cars that drive down Summit Street, never thinking for a moment that I would choose to buy a house in the area, and have never regretted it. You get used to certain things, but I like life, and for me, living in an urban area is life. May not be safe, and it's certainly not the projects in Chicago. I have been through those, but it's a decision that I'm extremely happy I made. It's also close to the campus, and I can walk to campus. Anyway, I look forward to interacting with you.
And I'll tell you a little bit more about myself and how I came to this project and to the community. How many of you remember the movie Apollo 13? Remember that movie? Apollo 13, for those of you who don't recall, that was the failed mission to the moon. And movie star Tom Hanks, if you remember that. Well, if you remember, the movie itself had the sort of plot was this was the Apollo mission that failed. There was a particular concern that caused the spacecraft to not be able to land, and they need to try to figure out a way to get it back to Earth. And there was some problem with the air conditioning system or the air ventilation system. You had arguably some of the smartest people in the world working for NASA who were working on that problem, trying to get it fixed. They had a couple of very real constraints, however. One was they didn't have space shuttles back then, so they could not take any equipment or any resources up to the spacecraft. So whatever solution they came up with had to be available to the astronauts on the spacecraft. And the other thing was that it had to be something that the astronauts on the spacecraft could actually do themselves. They couldn't send a technician up there to put this solution together for them. Well, you have arguably some of the smartest people, most well-intended people in the world working on what to do in urban communities. The problem is a lot of the people have no clue about what it is like to live in an urban community. And so the astronauts, the folks at NASA were astronauts. They understood the spacecraft. They understood what the issues were, the things that were being dealt with. A lot of the people who are putting their brains and sincerity toward these problems in urban communities don't know what it's like, don't understand the dynamics of communities. And so people from in the community have a tremendous contribution to make to the development of solutions. And so if you have that perspective, that experience, that proximity to the problems that are going on inside a neighborhood, you have a significant contribution to make. So this was a community-based program. It came from the community. My work in that community, I moved into the Wildland Park community several years before Anna. She and I were actually neighbors for some time. And most of the things that we've done have come from the insights gained from living in a community. And this particular program was one of those. We recognized that if you couldn't get young people to invest in their community, to have a sense of ownership and value of their community, then they weren't going to treat it with much respect. And so when we were thinking about the ways in which to do that, we had done several things in terms of litter cleanup kinds of activities. We've done several things in terms of activities for young people to try to engage them, and with varying degrees of success. But the one thing that was clear, that if the young people themselves really took an interest and an ownership in what was going on, then that was the things that were most likely to be successful. And when we discovered that there were a good number of young people who had committed offenses and got caught up in the justice system that were coming from our neighborhood, we figured there was an opportunity here. And we had folks who lived in the neighborhood who had concerns about graffiti and the problems that was causing. And so we sort of married those interests in the development of this program, made the connection with the courts, and then we were able to get the courts to actually assign the young people from our community to our neighborhood to do their community service hours. And that's how this program got launched. Catherine Girves, who is not here this morning, she was the person who pulled together the coordination of it all. And then we got a couple of volunteers, Anna being the chief among them, to agree to do this mentoring work with young people. We turned it into a program that could be a development opportunity for the young people as well. And so the kids would get assigned their community service hours to our neighborhood to clean up graffiti, to pick up litter, things along that line. They're obligated to be there because they're fulfilling their responsibility to the courts. But we took that opportunity to begin to engage those people around, those young people around the interest, value of the community, other types of things that might be of interest to them, and set up opportunities to connect them to resources as their interest in improving their lives begin to be demonstrated. So anyway, that's generally how it got started. And over the last several years, Catherine had a lot of stats that she loves to reference about the success and the impact of the program. And I unfortunately don't have those with me, but Anna's going to tell you some stories, and I'll have some stories to tell as well as some of the sort of anecdotal stories about what impact it's had and the impact that it's actually had on her as well. So we'll start that way.
You want to time me?
I'll do my best.
I had no intention and no idea that I would be a trash collector when I moved into YVPAB Park. But I do like living in clean surroundings, so when I moved into YVPAB Park in the winter of 2007, on days when there wasn't snow on the ground, I thought, heck, I'm going to go out there and pick it up. So got some trash bags and off I went. And I have a route between 8th Avenue and 7th Indianola to 4th alleyway in between my alleyway and Hamlet. And that went on for a while, and I wouldn't say that I was comfortable with it.